I had never had so many difficulties to sleep before. Since that night, everything has changed. I don't know how to deal with this kind of thing. The storm outside didn't allow me to sleep. When I started to fall asleep, a thunder woke me up. So there I was, lying in my bed looking at each part of my room, totally dark. From time to time, a thunder illuminated it for brief moments, and then it returned to be immersed in darkness again. I remember that I could not see anything. However, my gaze directed it towards one object and another, until I finally directed it towards the front of my bed. Precisely, there was a very large mirror. It was large enough to see my full body. I lived in an apartment that I rented, and it was already furnished. So, that mirror was already there when I moved in. It seemed very pretty to me. It had a hand-carved wooden frame. It was all a piece of art. That's why I decided to leave it there. When I tried to look at it, a flash of light caused by a thunder illuminated the mirror, and in that instant I saw many faces marked on the glass. They were deformed. Almost everyone had their mouths open. It looked like they were suffering. I could feel that they were looking at me fixedly, with their large dark pupils. A few moments later, the darkness returned. I couldn't contain myself and screamed from the scare. Trembling with fear, I turned on the light. I inspected the mirror, but there was nothing unusual. I tried to attribute it all to my imagination. However, it was even harder for me to go back to sleep. I didn't know what to do, and I didn't want to get close to the mirror again. I remember that to calm down, I decided to leave the light on. Some days passed and I couldn't forget what I was sure I had seen. I decided to start sleeping with the lights on, since that way I could calm down a little. And well, I think that was a mistake, because on another occasion, I woke up in the middle of the night and, unconsciously, I looked at the mirror, still half asleep. But what I could see, I have it very clear. There they were again, a number of faces overlapping each other, watching me. This time I could distinguish some hands pressed against the glass, as if they were on the other side, struggling to get out. I think they were trying to reach me. In the midst of panic, I flinched, only to realize that everything was in order. I unhooked it from the wall very carefully. I realized that it was very cold. I almost had a heart attack when I examined it. I realized that there were fingerprints on the frame, and that the wooden frame had some. I think they had done it. I didn't know what was going on, but at that point I came to the conclusion that something was wrong. They weren't hallucinations of mine anymore. Finally, I removed the mirror from the wall and took it out of the apartment. I covered it with a blanket and decided to dispose of it the next day. Once again, I couldn't sleep at all. What made the situation worse was that I was sure I had heard the mirror creak. I swear it creaked several times during the night. I imagined those things would come out of it to come for me. It was hell spending the night alone in that apartment. It was very strange. I had been living there for a little over a month and had never seen anything out of the ordinary. When dawn broke, the first thing I did was put the mirror in the trash can. Once again, I almost died of fear. The mirror had more markings on its frame. They looked like spider webs. Some were noticeable with a depth greater than others, so I did not want to know more about it. Later, I went to talk to the owner of the apartment. I did not mention anything to him. I just told him that I had decided to move to another place. While I was looking for another place to live, I asked a friend if I could stay at his house for a few days. Fortunately, he agreed. I don't know what I would have done if I had to spend another night in that place. I didn't even tell my friend anything. I thought he would take me for crazy and make fun of me. Fortunately, everything turned out well. Several weeks passed and the event of that night had almost vanished from my mind. I had found another apartment, although this time, with great effort, I furnished it entirely with my own belongings. Everything was fine, until one night I decided to take a bath. I don't know how it happened exactly, but I imagine that because of the hot water, a thick cloud of steam was produced that ended up fogging the mirror. Up to that point, everything was normal. The problem came when I stood in front of the mirror with the intention of wiping it. That's when I saw it. There were some words written on the fogged mirror. It looked like they had been written with a finger on the mirror. On the mirror was the phrase, "We miss seeing you sleep."